What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode 26 of the Silver and Gold. I'm Josh,
And I'm Mike.
and today we're coming to you on a Monday morning. Normally, we come to you on Monday nights. Pause. Um, yeah, Mike and I decided that it would work with our schedule a little bit better today if we started earlier. We don't know if it's going to be a recurring theme to start on Monday mornings, but we'll see and be prepared for anything. We appreciate all the support and flexibility that all our viewers have given us. Um, we are going to be talking about why the title is named Zero Doubt. And I feel like there was a lot of doubt before about, Brock Purdy and whether he could sustain his success. And there was a lot of uncertainty on the Raiders side of things on whether or not they should be in tank mode. And we're going to go ahead and answer a couple of those questions in today's episode. But first, we're going to start with the 49ers versus Seahawks recap. And, let me just tell you, Brock Purdy might have had his best game in his career so far. Brock Purdy absolutely lit it up against the Seahawks. I feel like maybe the game was kind of close in the first half, but then the 49ers really started to pull away. Deebo Samuel had another incredible game, and really the play of the game that a lot of people have been posting the highlights of has really been that play where Purdy just hit Deebo beautifully in
Dude.
stride. You saw that play, right?
I know I mentioned the only play I saw was the McCaffrey 72-yard run to start the game, but yes, I saw that multiple times. And the first time I was just like, oh, Deebo, there you go. He's on fire. And then I saw it a second time on Fox, and I just watched the release and the curvature, and I see Deebo running in stride, and it's like he just has his hands like this for like what's probably 2 full seconds, and it just falls right into his hands perfectly.
Perfectly.
I
Yeah.
was like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
Dude. So literally I was sitting there thinking to myself, like, all right, as soon as I saw Brock Purdy wind up, I went, "Oh yeah." Whereas in the past, with every other 49er quarterback that I've, grown up watching, I'm like, "Oh no." Like I have never felt this confident in passes being thrown and that are not going to get intercepted or that aren't going to be risky. Um, Brock Purdy has just absolutely been checking every single box. I remember a couple weeks ago I said, he only utilizes a portion of the field, but he has absolutely opened it up. The past several weeks, he's been completing more passes, and that wasn't even the only deep pass that he hit. Like Brock Purdy was on fire yesterday, and really he's been on fire the past couple weeks. And I don't know about you, Mike, but I think we have an MVP candidate emerging in Brock Purdy.
I do agree with that. I think, I've seen a lot of people saying that it's going to come down to Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts. And I think, honestly, I can take those two guys out of the equation right now. They can come back into it at the end. We still have the last quarter of this season to go. But I think it's clearly between two guys right now, and that's Brock Purdy and Dak Prescott.
I 100% agree, but I will add in two names that should be considered, but probably won't be because the MVP has is a quarterback, pretty much every year. But Christian McCaffrey should absolutely be considered for it, and Tyreek Hill should absolutely also be in the contention. It should be between those four players, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb have absolutely been connecting, and like last night they lit up the Eagles. And I think Jordan in our group chat put a picture where it was like Dak Prescott to CeeDee Lamb this season, and then he put it was like a gif of Montana to Rice. And I'm not willing to make that comparison, but I know he is because both of those guys are on his fantasy team, courtesy of Mike.
Yeah, they were on my fantasy team earlier this season, and I kind of I was in desperation mode, but Dak wasn't doing it to start the season, and I would say the thing about Dak and Purdy, they've both had their slow starts to the season, or I would say their slumps, because
Mhm.
Dak started off slow and Purdy had that 3-game stretch, right? Um, but ever since, I'd say both of these teams' bye weeks, these quarterbacks have just been going, you know.
Yeah, so you almost forget that this 49er team had that 3-game skid. They started off 5-0, lost 3 games in a row, and now they're 5-0 again. Knock on wood that 3-game skid is not going to happen again. That would probably, that would ruin Christmas for me. But
Well, I mean, Christmas is an interesting day to bring up, obviously, because they're facing the Ravens that day, but no need to look ahead yet. What
mhm,
I will say is, what hasn't been mentioned yet, I don't think by you, but the Niners are the 1 seed
they are the 1 seed again,
currently.
and man,
And
like it feels
my
like
thing is that 3-game skid happened, and I was like, all these Niner fans getting all up in arms and nervous. I'm like, I know they're fine. I don't even care if you're the 3 seed. You guys are fine. But now everything has gone almost as good as it can besides that 3-game skid. You're the 1 seed. You have the head-to-head, matchups against the Eagles and the Cowboys in case of a tiebreaker. And even if you get in a tiebreaker with the Lions, apparently you have that on them too somehow, probably with beating one of those two teams. So honestly, at this point, now that you are the 1 seed and, in my opinion, clearly the best team in football right now, all you have to do is win. Just keep winning. You will get that 1 seed, and it's going to be a lot of fun, I think, for Niner fans
mhm,
come playoff
yeah,
time.
I I'm pretty happy that they were able to reclaim the 1 seed yesterday. Yeah, I mean, just there is a certain sort of relief where it's like, all right, the NFC Championship game, let's just say if it were, if we're in the playoffs, assuming that the Niners advance in the divisional round, the NFC Championship game would have to go through, the Niners' house. And I don't know. I prefer the team to play at home always. Like that's just, you know, I wouldn't want to see the 49ers have to travel to Philadelphia again, And that's not to say that I'm scared of the Eagles or that the Niners couldn't beat the Eagles again. They dismantled the Eagles like a week ago. Um, I just think that I don't want there to be any jet lag or any complications with the travel or anything. I want it to just be in. I think Santa Clara has beautiful weather. Pretty much almost year round, or at least football season. Like the entire football season for the most part. Mike, did we lose you, or is that just your camera? All right, I think we lost Mike for a second. He'll come back in, but um, I just have to say that going back to the whole Brock Purdy thing, uh, I feel pretty confident that Brock Purdy is a great quarterback. I don't really have any doubts about him anymore. And you know, if he's going to be playing like that, he can absolutely win the MVP, bring this team to the promised land, and the sky's the limit with this football team right now. Another player that I briefly mentioned, just a couple minutes ago was Debo Samuel. If Debo's going to be playing like that, my goodness, it does so much because in that 3-game losing streak, they didn't have Debo Samuel, and really like at the time, Debo Samuel wasn't really contributing as much as he is right now. Um, we're getting 2021 Debo right now. That's how
Yeah,
crazy he's playing. He
this is
like
prime
he
Debo.
he is not the rushing threat that we needed him to be like a couple years ago, but he is absolutely like every time the ball is in his hands, I see it in his eyes. He's looking towards the end zone again. And as long as he can keep that up, defenses are not going to know who to hone in on because it's like, All right, then they try to focus on Debo, and then Kittle gets going, and then Ayuk got going, and then it's I don't even remember McCaffrey really having that big of a game except for the 72-yard rush, to start off the game. But really, it was a full team effort. I think the defense played pretty well. Going on to the Seahawks, I know that going into the week, I had mentioned that DK Metcalf is one of those players where if you're physical with him, he will mentally check out of the game, and it almost like perfectly resolved itself, or at least it perfectly lived up to that, to the way I what's the word I'm looking for, Mike? The way I envisioned or described it.
Yeah.
Because Fred Warner got an interception, and then DK Metcalf suplexed Fred Warner, and to me, I think the suplex is fine. It is kind of like Dre Greenlaw got thrown out of the game a week prior because the security guard got in his face after he suplexed Devonta Smith, and he got flagged for that. So it's kind of like inconsistent officiating with the refs. Like if they're gonna throw the flag on Dre Greenlaw, on the play last week, they should have thrown it for DK Metcalf right there. But I mean, DK Metcalf did eventually draw a 15-yard penalty and got disqualified from the game once he like tried to smash Fred Warner's face mask in. Like, I feel like if DK Metcalf really wanted to, he probably could like bend that face mask, but it was a crazy thing to watch because after Fred Warner got suplexed, Fred Warner gave, I think it's a pretty dirty hit after the fact, where Warner just sort of like, hit DK in the back of the head, like as he was on the ground. Like that can be pretty dangerous, I think. If you hit somebody like in the back of the head, especially without a helmet. I think with a helmet, it's like a little bit more protected, but still. And then obviously DK Metcalf retaliated after that. And, they always talk about it's always the second person who gets in trouble, or, the second person who gets caught. So, I mean, really, Fred Warner was the second person. And then DK had his final say. And then after that, Diamador Lenore got into it and then threw a sucker punch to Jake Bobo, and then got tossed too. And to me, I see why both players got tossed. Like it made sense to me why both got tossed. So I'm not really upset that Diamador Lenore got tossed. Like it was perfectly understandable. But aside from that, the 49ers should be done with the Seahawks, unless they make the playoffs. And in order to make the playoffs, I wouldn't mind if the Seahawks went on to beat the Eagles this week. So, it's going to be a bird fight, and the 49ers are going to be playing their own set of birds coming up this upcoming week. So we're going to go ahead and jump into that. Mike, did we lose you again? No, you're back. We're going to be previewing the 49ers versus Cardinals. And, this should be a game that the 49ers shouldn't have much trouble, beating, because the Cardinals aren't necessarily that good of a team. The only thing about the Cardinals, though, is that they're kind of sneaky. And, I remember witnessing in person the 49ers get dismantled by Colt McCoy, who I don't even know if he's on a team anymore. So that was with Jimmy Garoppolo. We got Brock Purdy, and the 49ers are going to be playing in Arizona, which was actually home to the 49ers in 2020, for those of you who remember that, like 3 years ago, when the Niners got kicked out of Levi Stadium, funny enough, due to COVID. But Kyler Murray is probably the one player that like just sort of worries me because of his ability to extend plays and the way he's able to get away from the pass rush. Like we've seen in the past couple weeks, the 49ers have almost gotten sacks on like Jalen Hurts or Drew Lock. And, they've been able to escape and complete a pass down the field. I really do want to see the 49ers try to keep Kyler Murray in the pocket, because I don't think Kyler Murray is the type of quarterback that can beat you in the pocket. He's got a pretty good arm, but I don't think that he is comfortable being in the pocket long term. So maybe Mike, when he comes back in, will disagree with that sentiment. But I really want to get Mike's thoughts on the Cardinals preview, but I guess I'll just wrap up with mine. The 49ers absolutely cannot afford to lose this game if they want to retain the 1 seed. I think that no matter what, they're going to make the playoffs. They might have even possibly clinched already. They're at double-digit wins at 10-3 right now. They're 10-3, right? Not, or 9-3. Yeah, I think they're 10-3 right now. Let me just double check that. 49ers record. Yeah, they're currently 10-3 at the top of the NFC West, and there's about 5 games left. Yeah, 5 games left. No, 4. Now I have to double check that too. See, Mike's supposed to be here reassuring me, but Mike's over there getting his internet together. Mike, there's 4 games left, right?
This week?
No, for the season. Yeah, there's 4. Niners got Cardinals, Ravens, Commanders, Rams. So the Niners absolutely cannot afford to drop this game. And really, I want to see them play a clean game, keep Kyler Murray in the pocket, try not to get anybody hurt, just do what you need to do, take care of business and move on, because there is a bigger game on the horizon, but you have to take care of business this week for that game to really matter. If you don't take care of business this week, it's like, all right, it's going to be a pain in the ass to reclaim that the 1 seed again.
Yeah. I have to see who the Cowboys and Eagles are facing moving forward, but at the end of the day, the Niners just need to take care of business, take it one week at a time. Like you said, keep it clean, keep Kyler Murray in check. For coming off of a year without football and coming off an ACL tear, he's looked pretty mobile and like himself.
Yeah.
I don't think the touchdowns have quite been there for him, but the rushing and evading pressure has been. So I know that's been a thing that has affected the Niners defense in the past. I don't know so much about this year. They played a hell of a game against Jalen Hurts, so I think they should be fine. They really should. But
where the touchdowns are coming off a bye.
The Cardinals are coming off a bye. So, but for the Cardinals, I don't know.
They traded away DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
And they don't have Zach Ertz anymore. Those were like 2 of their top passing weapons, with Kyler Murray.
Yeah, though I think their young second-year tight end is better than Ertz at this point in their careers. McBride, yeah. And then they have Hollywood Brown, although he hasn't been getting, that much. I'd say the receiving core has kind of been like all over the place this season. And then I'd say James Conner's done pretty well this season, except he had a stint on the injured. I don't think maybe he did go on injured reserve, but he was out for a period, but otherwise he's been playing good. It's just a matter. I'm just saying, as long as Kyler Murray's been in 3 weeks or however long it's been, like, he hasn't passed for that many touchdowns. And yes, not having a top tier wide receiver like DeAndre Hopkins at that time would definitely help him. But, I think they're a team that's certainly, they need to continue building. They're not a team that's ready to go out there and win a bunch of games right now. But I will admit, there's been a lot of things said towards Jonathan Gannon, the head coach, in the past, of him not being a very good coach and Hard Knocks just being a bad look for him, like just not being a very good motivator.
Mhm.
And yet I would say like they've played multiple games. I mean, really all season they've played hard for him. He's done a good job, I would say, of getting them in positions to go out there and compete. Hell, they beat the Dallas Cowboys. And if they didn't, the Cowboys would be the 1 seed right now. So, I mean, any given week, right? Any given Sunday, I think this Cardinals team is one of those teams that they could shock somebody. And if the Niners are looking too far forward towards the Ravens for Christmas or whoever they face next week, you could get a little bit of a shocking treatment from the Cardinals. I mean, this past Seahawks game, the Niners weren't ahead all game. I don't think it was until the second or third quarter that they started breaking away. So,
Well, it
you
was
never know,
14-10 at halftime.
Seahawks, right? Or Niners?
No, Niners.
Niners, okay. And they never gave up the lead after that?
No. The Niners the Niners just kept the lead and then really distanced themselves. And one thing I forgot to mention about the Seahawks recap was there was a point before halftime where the Niners had an opportunity. They had all 3 timeouts and around 55 seconds left, and the Cardinals had the ball. No, the Cardinals. The Seahawks had the ball, and it was like 3rd down, and Kyle Shanahan, for whatever reason, didn't call a timeout. I think the Cardinals were pinned deep into their own territory where, the game was pretty close. The Niners should have seen about, they should have at least considered trying to get the ball. Like, you take 1 timeout, stop the clock, and then it was 3rd and long. You have to have faith in your defense. You could have had at least another possession, but ultimately it didn't bite them in the butt. So it's not really that big of a deal. But if the Niners would have lost a 1 possession game, everybody would be pointing back to what happened right before halftime.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. At the end of the day, for this Cardinals game, sorry, I just saw a tweet from Dov Kleiman right now. It says report in bold. I thought it said breaking because all I saw was big bold letters, : 49ers coach Kyle Shanahan, and then, it's the little thing on the top of the phone, so I couldn't see the rest. I thought it said breaking, so I was like, what's going on here? But it says report, 49ers coach Kyle Shanahan showed multiple clips of Seahawks wide receiver DK Metcalf losing control and acting up during a recent team meeting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming we're acting up on the field and then during a Niners team meeting. Video clips featuring past fits of rage from the report. And Shanahan said, apparently, we will get 14 to lose his mind.
Dude, was that not what I said? All right, be extra physical with him. He'll check out of the game. It's really that simple. And they did it. So, I mean, props to Kyle Shanahan. I really wish that I said this in the Seahawks recap, so it would be in that video, but it's going to be in the Cardinals preview. Maybe I'll even bunch the 2 videos together. I don't know. Yeah. Shanahan understood the assignment, and Fred Warner also executed the assignment. So, I mean, that's great.
Yeah, and usually Charvarius Ward is a very big part of that as well. That was something I wanted to mention. I saw a tweet. This was before this Seahawks game, and maybe this has changed, but I think it was a pretty solid margin. Charvarius Ward, did I say that correctly? Charvarius Ward leads the league in passes defended. Mm-hmm. Pass breakups. Leading the league.
It's a good thing that you mentioned Charvarius Ward because I also forgot to talk about this in the Seahawks recap. I need to have a little note thing so I don't forget these things going forward. I just kind of go our whole thing is it's a conversation between you and I, and our conversations always go all over the place. So, if you're in the audience at home, I'm sorry that you're getting the story goes this way, and then it goes this way, and then it goes this way. But I think that's part of the good part about this show. Charvarius Ward is going to be out for a couple of weeks. He injured his groin, and Javon Hargrave is also going to be out probably a couple of weeks. I mean, he might power through it, but it's a hamstring injury for Hargrave. So
not worth risking.
They might just shut him down for like a couple weeks because he can re-aggravate that, and they really need him for the playoffs. I think they could, they've been getting solid play from Javon Kinlaw, this season. So, if Kinlaw can step up and step into Javon Hargrave's role, or maybe a guy like, Kevin Givens. I always get Kevin Givens mixed up with a couple D linemen that were on the team like over the past couple years. But I mean, really, the 49ers have solid depth at D line, and I would really like to see somebody step up. Everybody on the defensive line played really well against the Seahawks, and I would like to see the same thing in order to try and keep Kyler Murray in the pocket against the Cardinals. Also, I think we're sort of done with the 49ers section of the show. Mike is fixing his camera real quick, but as we transition into the Raiders, I will take a couple comments. All right. I see Anthony in here. Anthony, welcome back. The Raiders stink. We're about to get into that in a minute. Yeah, I can see you're very upset about that. Mike is going to have the floor, and he's going to be able to talk pretty in detail about the Raider game. Mike, Anthony says the Raiders stink. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I say that their offense stinks. And I have opinions on the coaching staff that I will get into.
Pia's dad says, what was the score? Hold on. Before we get into that, I almost forgot. Prediction for the Niners Cardinals.
Niners.
I got Niners too.
Yeah.
All right. So we can go ahead and take this last comment. AOC sucks. Mike, you're going to have the floor. I now give you the floor to talk about the Raiders versus Vikings shootout that occurred yesterday. A whopping 0-3.
Yeah. I honestly, you can keep the comments up. I took notes. For starters, this game. Thank you, Anthony. I love it. This game was on Fox at the same exact time as the Niners game, and being that we live in the Bay Area, we did not get the Raider game. But luckily, there are what would you call it? Subscriptions that you can subscribe to, like NFL Plus, where you can watch the game afterwards. So last night, before bed, I watched the condensed version of the Raider game, the entire game, and I took some notes. So I am going to get into those notes. And as Josh said, I kindly ask for the floor. We will definitely talk about it once I'm done. It should be pretty extensive. This should feel like you have watched the game after hearing me. So to answer Jose?
Yeah.
To answer Jose, the final score in this absolute shootout, this absolute offensive showcase, was 3-0 Vikings. So
there is a follow-up question.
Yeah.
So Pia's dad wants to know, why do you feel the score was 0-0 for so long?
Well, I sarcastically said that it was an offensive showcase, but really I think this game was a defensive showcase. Honestly. And listen, you can go back to Anthony's comment about, Aiden O'Connell stinking. Mm-hmm. I think, yes, they are. Well, most of them. I think that Aiden O'Connell is a rookie, and he was drafted to develop under Josh McDaniel's scheme, and he was not supposed to be starting games this season. Only if Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt, which everybody expected apparently other than Josh McDaniels, and if Brian Hoyer sucked that bad, which, oh, by the way, he does. So here we are, right? We're starting a rookie. And I know I said like last week, like, the Raiders, you can give the excuse or whatnot of, hey, they're starting a rookie quarterback and, he was their third stringer to start the season. And your response was, well, actually, he's the best quarterback on the roster. Yeah. And that's not a very high bar at all. Clearly. Like, he had a good game 2 weeks ago against the Chiefs, and it obviously wasn't enough to beat them for reasons not just towards him. But this week, man, not good. Not good. Stink is a good word to put it. Struggle. But really, at the end of the day, for me, it's like, it's a collective effort. It's not just him. He's a rookie, but he needs help to be prepared for these games. That is towards the coaching staff, namely Bo Hardigree, right? He was the quarterback's coach before becoming the offensive coordinator. I've given him some leeway or whatever you want to call it because he's a rookie offensive coordinator, but you have to be able to get this offense ready, and you have to be able to make mid-game adjustments to go out there and potentially win games. And against the Giants and the Jets, you can do that. Cool. But against these other teams, you're having struggles. It's like, come on, So I'm just going to get into the game, and I'm going to probably cover everything as I go. So
you want me to pull up the tweets as you're sort of...
Yeah, just keep them on the screen for a long time because this should take me a little while. Keep them on the screen like at least a minute or two each, and then just keep going as we go. Once you get towards the bottom, though, there's one about the Niners. Don't put that one up.
Okay.
Yada, yada. I'm not going to read it. Anybody viewing this can see what it is, but these are pretty good tweets. So I'm just going to start with the first quarter. Vikings-Raiders. The Raiders started with the ball. First off, I predicted the Raiders would win this game. We both did. And my prediction was as long as Max Crosby plays, I picked the Raiders to win. I didn't even consider Colton Miller. Didn't even consider him. And Colton Miller did not play in this game. And honestly, I think that had I known that, or had I had a thought towards that in the back of my head, I would probably consider that, but I didn't think of it, and I think with Danielle Hunter on the other side, that's a big deal, right? But Colton Miller was out, predicted the Raiders to win, what have you. Thayer Munford was the starting left tackle, not Jermaine Illuminor. Illuminor stayed at right tackle. That is where he's comfortable. I know a couple weeks ago when Colton Miller was out, I think Illuminor was at left tackle and Munford at the right side. Clearly, they switched some things up this week. So, just to start, Raiders' offense was moving nicely down the field. They get down to a 4th and 1, and they convert it. They go for it. They convert it on a QB sneak. There was a nice, healthy mix of Josh Jacobs and then some nice, well-designed pass plays, like usual, to start games for this offense. But the first possession stalled after a penalty pushed them back to 2nd and long, followed by a sack due to great coverage by the Vikings, as well as O'Connell's inability to be mobile in the pocket. He's a rookie. He might be less mobile than Joe Flacco. I'm not even joking. Like, that is not even a joke. Like, you would think that it is, but it's genuinely not. Like, it has the slowest feet I've ever seen for a quarterback. Derek Carr looks like Steve Young compared to him. Not in performance, but in mobility. You know what I mean? Aiden O'Connell is not a mobile quarterback.
He's got to
So
unhitch the trailer.
the Raiders punt. Yeah. So the Raiders punt. Vikings' first drive was a 3-and-out. Jack Jones had a great pass breakup that was nearly a pick six on a second down target to Justin Jefferson. And then on the next play was a beautifully designed and executed blitz by Robert Spillane, or a stunt, what have you, which led to a Tyree Wilson sack of Joshua Dobbs. Wilson just pushed the right guard backwards. And you might ask yourself, wait. Right guard? Tyree Wilson's a defensive end. That's what he was drafted to be, right? Well, there were many plays in this game where Tyree Wilson was lined up on the inside. And this has been something that I've been kind of thinking about, like with his length and very great frame. He could potentially be a good option on the interior pass rush. So I'd say this is something to keep an eye on with him, because this team is in great need of an interior pass rusher. So I mean, he can line up on the edge on first and second down, but then slide him inside on third down and have Malcolm Kuntz come in. And speaking of Malcolm Kuntz, I mean, he's having a great season rushing the passer this year, and really has earned more snaps, I would say. So get your best pass rushers on the field when you can, especially on third down, right? Anyway, second offensive drive. Well, Vikings punt, Raiders get the ball. Second offensive drive leads immediately to another 4th-and-1 conversion, which the Raiders go for and convert with a handoff to Jacobs up the middle. But O'Connell didn't look good on this drive. Starts it off by passing behind Davante Adams on a slant that should have been easy, incomplete. Follows that up with an intentional grounding penalty after a 4th down conversion. Then he has trouble with the play clock on back-to-back
There's trouble
plays.
with the what?
With the play what?
The play what?
With the play clock on back-to-back plays, which leads to a punt. And then the second possession for the Vikings, Max Crosby with a nice tackle for loss. Josh Jacobs, after getting some pressure on the initial third down, is able to scramble for an easy first down. Mobile quarterback. This is something that the Raiders do not have, and I would say are missing on offense. Not that they've ever really had it to begin with, but something that they should look into potentially getting. I'm hoping that can change. Alexander Madison breaks some nice tackles, breaks some tackles. They were not nice because they didn't make the tackle. And then this leads us into the second quarter, which started off with an amazing sack by Janarius Robinson, who beats the fullback one-on-one to get Dobbs from behind. And you might be wondering who Janarius Robinson is. He's been on the Raiders practice squad since the beginning of this season. He was elevated to the active roster November 25th for the Chiefs game, and then officially signed to the active roster on December 5th for this game. He actually, first off, he had quite a few plays versus the Vikings, rotating with many other pass rushers. And funny enough, he was a 4th-round pick for the Vikings back in 2021. He ended up on the Vikings practice squad and made his way to the Eagles in 2022 when he was claimed off the practice squad for the Vikings. And then in August of 2023, the Eagles waived him, and 2 days later, this would be this season, early this season, before the season started, the Raiders picked him up and put him on the practice squad. Now he's here. He's on the active roster and, making plays. So he'll be a player I'll keep an eye on the rest of these weeks, see if he's worth sticking around. But the fact that he's getting playing time tells me that he must be looking good on the practice field and that coaches want to see him with real NFL snaps. 2nd and 19, Marcus Epps has great anticipation and gets a great pass breakup on an attempt for T.J. Hawkinson. Hawkinson was a guy that I was worried about in this game. He was held to 0 catches in the first half. This is a guy who's been a world beater, weeks leading up to this. So something was done very well in that regard. And then 3rd and 19, Max Crosby beats the right tackle for a sack. Another punt. Raiders' 3rd drive. Short run, sack. Daniel Hunter beats Andre James. DJ Wanham comes in for the cleanup and gets the sack. Punt. Vikings get a quick first down. Dobbs beats the blitzing pressure. Finds Justin Jefferson near the sideline against Amik Robertson. A play or two later, Dobbs targets Jefferson again, and he's given a hospital ball where Marcus Epps just absolutely lays the boom on Justin Jefferson, and he was knocked out of the game, out for the rest of the way. Obviously, I'll pause just for a second here. What we're looking at here is a comparison for Tyree Wilson to DeForest Buckner. I'm not going to say that he will ever be close to DeForest Buckner, but imagine if he were to bulk up to 290 pounds. Right now he's around, I think, 270, maybe 270. I mean, he has the measurables and the frame. If you could get him to that size, he could be the missing link at defensive tackle that I've been hoping and wishing for all this time. And if Malcolm Koonce keeps it up, re-sign him in a year from now, and you have your pass rush.
Dude, DeForest Buckner's hands are massive.
Yeah, that was something that I definitely noticed when I looked at this.
His hands are almost a foot long.
Yeah, that's insane. Like, what?
Jesus Christ.
But back to the game. 3rd down, Dobbs scrambles again, but Divine Diablo gets a stop. And then on 4th and 2, Dobbs finds KJ Osborne on the crosser for a first down. After another first down on a run, 2nd down, Malcolm Koonce gets a big pressure and a hit on Dobbs, but he's able to somehow get a pass off towards Hawkinson deep down the sideline. But Trevon Merrick was there in coverage to disrupt the pass.
Can I put up this tweet?
That's what it looks like. That's what it literally looks like it. Yes.
O'Connell has cement in his shoes.
Yeah, it looks like he has weights, or he has magnets that specifically gravitate towards grass. So,
honestly, after you're done with your notes, Mike, I do have a couple questions I want to ask you.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to say, definitely work up the questions. Absolutely. So Vikings go down, they miss a field goal. So it could have been 3-0 in the second quarter, but it wasn't. Raiders get the ball on their 4th drive. Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams, and then on 3rd and 1, incomplete to Renfro. Punt. And then finally the Vikings get the ball again. Nate Hobbs gets a nice pass defended on 2nd down. Defense gets a 3rd down penalty, which gives the Vikings new life. Madison moves the ball down the field a bit. 3rd and 3. Max Crosby with another sack, beating the right tackle again. And I believe I read that the most sacks a Raider has ever had in one season was 16. Crosby has 13.5 on the season, and we have 4 weeks to go. He also has 18 tackles for loss, which is tied for first in the NFL with Danielle Hunter. It's possible that Danielle Hunter got another tackle for loss or a couple more than Crosby in this game, but I don't know. If I'm being honest, I'll get to the stats later, but I have a gut feeling that Crosby's leading the league in tackles for loss.
Mm-hmm. I pulled up Anthony's comment because I had it starred, and it really ties in with the tweet that I have on the screen right now from a sorry Raider fan named Michael. No, I'm just playing.
Yeah. Actually, can you click on the Mo Moten tweet, because it has more context that is very important here. So the first off, Sonny Days tweets here, getting rid of him. I'm assuming Antonio Pierce means getting rid of Patrick Graham, probably. Definitely something to think about. And this has been something I've said is my worry is that the Raiders let Antonio Pierce go, bring in a new coach or a new GM who decides, I want my staff, and they let go of Patrick Graham. That is not what I want. I want Patrick Graham to stay because he's the one glimmer of hope who's actually making a difference for this team other than certain players. He has built this defense over the past 2 seasons to something that is literally, I just saw this a couple hours ago. The Raiders are now a top 10 scoring defense in the NFL. They are the 9th scoring defense in the NFL. You want to get rid of him? I don't. Because all my life as a Raider fan, all I've known is dog shit on defense for the Raiders. All I've known is Derek Carr and the offense with a good passing game, maybe a good running game here and there, trying their hardest to carry the 28th, the 29th, the 32nd ranked defense in the league and missing the playoffs, 8 wins, 6 wins, right? And then rebuild. Don't rebuild this. It's finally working. They're finally keeping themselves in games. Okay, Josh Dobbs is a backup. Yeah, the Giants, they're not, and the Jets backup, right? But like other games, the Lions game, the Chiefs game, the defense is keeping them in it, even when they lose.
Well, Josh Dobbs did get benched in the game, right?
He did get benched at the end of this game, yes. But can you blame either team for benching their quarterback when the game is 0-0? I mean, it would make more sense if it was like 0-21 or something, but still, it's like these offenses were not getting it done. But obviously here with Mo Moton's tweet, he says, not necessarily for getting rid of Patrick Graham if you get rid of Pierce. The Colts kept Gus Bradley, this was a year ago, after they got rid of Frank Reich, or maybe 2 years ago, and Jeff Saturday, and hired Shane Steichen. Steichen is obviously an offensive-minded coach. It's all up to the head coach, or I would say in this case the GM as well, but it's probably up to the head coach who he wants on his staff. If I'm a head coach candidate, seeing the way the Raiders defense is playing right now, I'd retain Patrick Graham, and I completely agree with Mo Moton here. Let the defense continue to grow with him and his scheme. I mean, that's the thing, as I said, like you bring in a new defensive coordinator that has a different scheme. It's like, oh, now Trevon Verick, he doesn't fit. Tyree Wilson doesn't fit at all. His frame makes no sense to us on this defense. Robert Spillane, absolute nobody. He doesn't fit. With this defense, those guys are doing good. Tyree Wilson's finally getting it going. I think you give him a full offseason, let him bulk up, perhaps aim for 290. Yeah, he might break out next season. I certainly hope so because we need that. But I am big on keeping Patrick Graham. He is absolutely the one thing that is good on this team, other than Max Crosby and certain players. As far as the coaching staff goes, yes, he's the one good thing. I would also say Edgar Bennett, the wide receiver coach, is a great coach. I'd even argue Carmen Brasillo, the offensive line coach, has done a hell of a job. But yeah, Patrick Graham, I am very big on keeping him. So, but back to Crosby, 18 tackles for loss, at least at coming into this game, and then 13.5 sacks, which is actually third in the league as of 2 p.m. On Sunday. So somebody, Micah Parsons, whoever might have passed him up. But back to the game. The Vikings punt the ball, and the Raiders have 1 minute and 2 seconds left to play in the half, with only one timeout. Starting on the 10-yard line after the punt. Not ideal to go get a score, right? O'Connell gets the offense past the 40-yard line, but ends the half on a sack. But quick note, I'm curious how many first and second halves have gotten down to the 2-minute drill with less than 2 timeouts under Antonio Pierce. Because I feel like it's been many times. I'm not the biggest fan of the offense's ability to manage the clock under Antonio Pierce. Really just his decision-making with timeouts and what have you. So, because, I mean, a minute left, if you have all 3 timeouts, I mean, Aiden O'Connell was able to get them 30 yards downfield. Maybe with 2 more timeouts, you can go get a field goal. Maybe this isn't a loss, right? So third quarter, Vikings get the ball first. Spillane comes in on fourth play of the drive, unblocked on a blitz, gets the first down sack on Dobbs. Just perfectly timed by Spillane. He's just been having a hell of a season. A few incompletions lead to a Vikings punt, third down for the Raiders offense. O'Connell finds Hunter Renfrow for a big 38-yard gain. And the Raiders find themselves on the Vikings' 11-yard line. We are in the red zone. Dylan Parham gets a big holding penalty on second down, and on the very next play, Hunter Renfrow gets a pass, and a fumble is forced, and the Vikings get the ball. So they go from being in the red zone, big 38-yard play, first offensive drive, right, on offense in the third quarter. We're going to score. Turnover. So Vikings get the ball. Hawkinson gets his first catch of the game in the third quarter. The Vikings move down the field a little bit, get a few first downs. Finally, Tyree Wilson gets a tackle for loss, and then followed by that is Malcolm Coots getting a pressure, leading to a third down throwaway from Josh Dobbs. Another punt. Raiders get a few positive plays in on the next drive, leading to a 3rd and 5. O'Connell has a bunch of time to throw and finds Trey Tucker downfield for a big sideline grab, maybe 20 yards downfield. But, of course, this has been a recurring theme with Trey Tucker. He bobbled the pass as he was going out of bounds untouched, and it's ruled incomplete. Another punt. Move on to the fourth quarter. Vikings convert a 3rd and 2 with another Josh Dobbs scramble. Again, quarterback scrambling. I love seeing that when it's on my team, but I never really get to see it. Next play, false start. Amik Robertson gets a nice pass breakup on second down, 3rd and 15. Dobbs stopped on a 2-yard gain, tripped up by Malcolm Kuntz. Again, I loved what I saw from Malcolm Kuntz in this game. Another punt, a few short yardage plays for the Raiders, 3rd and 4. Michael Mayer is targeted, attempts to catch the pass. He has it in his hands, everything. It's going to be caught. We're good to go. He starts to turn forward to move upfield. Vikings defender just punches it right out. Beautifully, perfectly punches it. Didn't make a football move. Incomplete pass. We're punting again. And on this punt, the best punter in the league proved why I consider him to be the best punter in the league. With an 83-yard punt. He was punting from like the 11-yard line. It literally was a touchback.
You're referring to AJ Cole?
AJ Cole, that is correct. 4th longest punt in the NFL since 2000, and the longest punt in Raiders history, passing an 80-yard punt made by Shane Lechler. And this punt was so close to being stopped on the 1-yard line. Whoever the gunner was on this play, he got tripped up. He was trying to dive and get the ball before it went in the end zone, but it just barely rolls in. It was almost literally a perfect punt. It couldn't have gone better. It bounced over the return man and just kept going and going to the end zone. It was awesome. Best play, really, the punter, the best play of the game for the Raiders.
Yeah. Did we lose you? Oh my God. All right. Mike, that's impeccable timing. Mike's like, best play of the game for the Raiders was the punt. And Mike's internet just cut out. He'll be back in a second. But in the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and finish up showing some of the tweets that Mike wanted me to put up. So over here from Tristan Kuhn, he says the way to fix the Raiders is to hire a legitimate head coach. Frank Smith should be called the minute Mark Davis can. Let Champ Kelly pick his head coach and GM. Oh, no. Let him pick his head coach as he is the GM. I got confused there for a second because I was like, how can he pick a GM when he is the GM? Draft a first-round quarterback. I agree the Raiders do need a first-round talent at quarterback. Two guys I would look into would be Caleb Williams and probably Drake May. Those would be where I would look into first. I know I've said before that I don't know if Caleb Williams' talents can, I guess, translate directly to the NFL, but, we'll see. Add 1 to 2 interior linemen. I'm assuming this is offensive linemen because I think the Raiders absolutely need to bulk up on that offensive line. When the Raiders were good in 2016, they had a hell of an offensive line. They had, I want to say, Gabe Jackson, Rodney Hudson. They were pretty stacked on that offensive line. Still waiting for Mike to get back in here. They have to add a corner. Yeah, especially after letting go of Marcus Peters and the fact that didn't work out. Add a defensive tackle. I kind of like what the Raiders are doing in that they're mixing in Crosby inside and moving Tyree Wilson also inside, sort of switching up the looks to, I guess, keep the offensive line on their toes because if you're getting similar reps against the same players all game, you start to figure them out over the course of a game. And just as my experience of playing when I played offensive line in high school, I know that a guy like Max Crosby would absolutely give me the most trouble because he's got long arms, he's quick, and the more that you get Crosby against guys that aren't figuring him out, I think the better. If you can swap them to opposite sides, or if you want to, switch up the looks, I don't think it hurts at all. And then we've got adding or involve Michael Mayer more. I do agree that the Raiders should absolutely be trying to get him going. Let's see. Is Mike? Mike texted me. He said he's restarting his computer. His laptop shut down on him. Apparently, wasn't charging. If anybody has any comments, I can put it up on the screen. If not, I'll just keep going through the tweets that Mike sent me. So we looked past an opponent when we were 5-7. WTF? Raiders are started planning. Oh, all right. This is big. I don't know how credible this is, but if the Raiders were already planning for the Chargers before they were even playing the Vikings, we've talked about like the cliche. I mean, it is kind of a cliche, but like you absolutely want to be focusing on one game, at a time. And I don't know if you're necessarily doing yourself a service to beat the Vikings if you're already planning to prepare against the Chargers. Like, I understand that the Chargers game, the Raiders were coming off a bye week, so they had that extra week to prepare. But the Raiders I guess they were sort of in a mode where it's like you have to win now if you want any sort of shot to make the playoffs. The Raiders sort of had to win a majority of their remaining games to at least be in the picture. And then right now it seems like the Raiders are out. And then also too, all that preparation that went into the Chargers, if it is true that the Raiders truly did, start planning against the Chargers, well, all that preparation that you did is just sort of out the window now because I mean, Justin Herbert probably is not going to play on Thursday night. And if Herbert doesn't play on Thursday night, all that preparation that went into probably stopping Justin Herbert because he's their best player, I mean, now you have to prepare for Easton Stick's skill set. And we'll talk about that in a minute when Mike logs back in and we can preview the Chargers game. But yeah, I think that's ridiculous. And Mike put up a tweet earlier about the fact that Antonio Pierce still has an opportunity to win this job. I don't know. I think it's starting to come out like that he's just not experienced enough, or hasn't had his plan thorough enough to be the head coach of to be a head coach yet in the NFL. He absolutely can be an assistant coach, but I think he needs a little bit more experience with game time decisions, preparation, all that stuff. And it's not easy because he was handed the job, or not handed the job. I guess you can kind of say that he earned it, but he was put in a position where he had to take over a team that was like, sort of collapsing in on itself with Josh McDaniels. And he sort of had to bring in a new energy into the locker room. And right now, I did say a couple weeks ago, it's a very slippery slope. It's very dangerous long term to just like have the team sort of running itself. You need that person in power. And if you can't get your guys in line and can't get your guys like under control, I don't know. I just don't see that as a sustainable way to operate an NFL team. So I kind of disagree. I'll pull that tweet back up, but Mike said that Antonio Pierce still has time to earn or lose the head coaching position. I think if Mark Davis was a smart owner, he would look for, I've been saying it for the longest time, Jim Harbaugh is the guy that you want. And I understand that Patrick Graham, is a good defensive coordinator. The Raiders defense is finally playing well, for like the first time since God knows how long. I think that there are still, if Harbaugh can come in and sort of set order in this locker room, and then you're able to have Patrick Graham as the defensive coordinator still, I think that's the best of both worlds. And I'm sure Mike might agree, but I don't know. Mike's a little hesitant on the whole Harbaugh train, and he sent me a tweet like a couple days ago that I think it was from Ian Rappaport, that was like something pretty interesting, was that I guess the negotiations have kind of stalled a little bit between Harbaugh and Michigan. And Harbaugh is looking for north of 11, I think the offer currently as it sits right now is about 11 million per year. And Mike's super hesitant to, give another coach. Like Mike thinks that was more than what John Gruden was making. And I think he might be right. But I tell you, I think Jim Harbaugh is worth it. He gets results everywhere he goes. And I think he absolutely knows about, a thing or two about at least developing a quarterback. And the fact that you would give him sort of a premium draft pick, maybe there is a quarterback in the draft that he absolutely wants on his team. I'm trying to think of the name of the Michigan quarterback. Maybe he could even bring him along too, but I'm not sure how that would translate to the NFL. There's always there's the transition period for, players that are going from, college football to the NFL. And that's what makes or breaks their career. Like, we see guys all the time that are they're successful within a certain program in college, and then for whatever reason in the NFL, whether it be outside influence, whether it be the system that they were drafted in, it just does not work out. But I'm going to go ahead and keep it moving along with this last tweet that Mike sent me. All right, comeback complete. free agent offensive lineman DJ Fluker signing with the Raiders following last week's workout. His agent tells Jordan Schultz, the former first-round pick has lost about 50 pounds and is in the best shape of his life. I'm not going to lie. I don't know a lot about this player. He sounds familiar, but that's because the Niners play the Seahawks, twice a year. But Jordan Schultz also adds, new Raiders offensive lineman DJ Fluker revamped his entire training regimen to incorporate strength training, cardio, and clean eating to lose 50 pounds. It's a great example of perseverance and self-belief. Now he's back in the NFL and back with the silver and black. Okay, so he was with the Raiders before? Or are they just signifying that, since he's back in the NFL, he will now be with the silver and black? I don't know. So that's interesting. And then Mike sent me this one tweet. I know we're on the Raiders topic, but just waiting for Mike to get back in here. Mike tweeted this February 2nd, 2020. I think this was probably the day that the 49ers lost the Super Bowl to the Kansas City Chiefs. And he says, the Niners are set up to be on top of the NFC for years to come. You guys will be back. It feels like the Niners are back right now. I apologize to all the Raider fans watching right now that I pulled up a Niner tweet, but just, I'm just trying to, keep the conversation going as we wait for Mike to get back in here. Let me check if Mike texted me. He said he'll be back in 1 minute. His laptop is just acting out. Is there anybody in the comments that, has anything to add or any questions? Now is the perfect time to take some comments. Let me stop sharing the screen because I went through all the tweets that Mike wanted. Let me go back. Let me add something to the whole Seahawks recap while I'm at it. Mitch Wishnowski's punt, his fake punt. Mike, welcome to the show. We're gonna go back to the Raiders in 1 second. Mitch Wishnowski's fake punt, the fact that he did it, on his own, it wasn't a called fake punt, was amazing.
I did see that play as well.
I had to add that in. Too bad it was called back because of Ronnie Bell's, I think chop block, or he tripped and then a player fell over him. I think it was clipping officially, but it was awesome. So go ahead and finish up the Raiders Vikings, unless you think that we should just go to the Chargers, or I don't know if you have any last thoughts for the Vikings.
I do have a few more thoughts or notes. I guess my question before we get it back into it, do you think you're going to be able to edit it into it, the video?
The whole
getting added back onto the end of
the
recap.
Yeah, I can.
Okay, cool. Sweet. Okay, well then I'm just going to act like nothing happened, even though I'm kind of livid right now. So the Vikings get the ball. First and second down. Max Crosby is lined up at left end. Tyree Wilson, right end. 3rd and 7. Wilson moves to left end, and Crosby slides into the interior. Malcolm Kuntz comes in at right end, and Adam Butler plays D tackle alongside Crosby. Tyree Wilson blows up the right tackle, and Josh Dobbs just throws the ball away. Pass rush had a hell of a game in this one. It's just too bad that the offense didn't allow the pass rush and really just the defense in general to properly enjoy this game, because they blew it, right? So it's just more back and forth, right? More punts, more punts. Finally, the Vikings get the ball. They drive down the field with 3 minutes left in the game. And they go down and they get a field goal right at the 2 minute mark. Okay, game on, I guess. 3-0, 2 minute drill. Let's see what you got, Aiden O'Connell. First play interception. And he just kind of like eyed down Devontae Adams, and this linebacker, Ivan Pace Jr., just dove for the ball, read it perfectly. He had a hell of a game and obviously finished it off with a big play, intercepting O'Connell for the game winner. And yeah, the Raiders fall to 5-8. They lose 3-0 again. Like, what the hell? And they are tied with the New York Jets, Chicago Bears, and their upcoming opponent, the LA Chargers. The Tennessee Titans also play tonight, Monday Night Football. They're 4-8. So if they were to win, which they're facing the Dolphins, so they shouldn't, suddenly the Raiders might be higher in the draft pick slot, because that's what I'm looking towards now. Really, I mean, you look at the offense and everything, it's like, I want a new quarterback.
I was just, while you were having technical difficulties, I was like going through the rest of the tweets that you had, and I was sort of giving my opinion on like quarterbacks to look into. Are there any college quarterback names that if you could just provide like maybe 3 that you're looking into currently?
Yeah, I mean, the last note that I have for this section is, it just says, lastly, Jayden Daniels. Go get him. Pair him with a coaching staff that can actually go out there and win games. Right now, Jayden Daniels from LSU, he just won the Heisman Trophy. You want to talk about a quarterback that would fit perfectly with Devontae Adams' game? It's Jayden Daniels. He throws a beautiful deep ball. And oh, by the way, what I've been screaming for since Derek Carr was quarterback, he's mobile. He can run like a Lamar Jackson. Maybe not that good, but he's right there, right? He's right there. But also, if the Raiders were to lose out, there's always the possibility that they go all in, and perhaps they're not going to get the first pick, but the Bears are going to have the first pick. It's really up to the Bears, unless something miraculous happens and the Panthers win a couple games and the Patriots have the first pick, but they just beat the Steelers. I think the Bears are going to own the first pick, and it's up to them on whether they want to keep going with Justin Fields or not. If they don't want Justin Fields, the obvious candidate is the USC quarterback, Caleb Williams. Somehow, if the Bears go Marvin Harrison Jr. first overall, nobody trades up to first overall. Nobody gives them a high, a very high offer. I mean, if the Raiders were to get the right circumstance and I guess the right coaching staff and really feel like, hey, we need to go do this, they could trade up for Caleb Williams. He's absolutely a guy that is worth looking into, but I would rather trade up to like third overall and get Jayden Daniels. I'd rather earn the third overall pick and not have to trade up future compensation. But then there's also Drake May. I think if you want 3 guys that are worth looking into right now, I think those are the 3 names. And the fourth being, if you want to consider Caleb Williams unrealistic, the next name I'll give you is Michael Penix Jr. I don't really Penix with an X. Or Penix. It might be Penix. That might be the better way to pronounce it. You can think about Bo Nix or even Shadir Sanders. I don't know if that's Shadur, but I don't see it with them.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Bo Nix can become something, but I also want to say he's like already 24, so he's kind of old coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Old, But yeah, Jayden Daniels, Drake May. Now Drake May, I don't think he's very mobile. He's more of like he's kind of the the pocket passer who projects to be really good. Like, honest, I mean, maybe it's because he's from North Carolina. I'm pretty sure he is. He almost reminds me of Mitch Trubisky.
That's exactly where Mitch Trubisky came from, right?
Right. But in the sense of like coming out of last season, it was like, oh, this guy, he's going to be so good. Just wait and see. And it's like, I've watched him and I'm like, okay, I think you're projecting that he's going to be good. Whereas like Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels have obvious talent,
Mm-hmm.
So
now, my other questions for you, I've got 2 more, but we'll try to answer it quickly because we're sort of running out of time today. I've seen a bunch of Raider fans say that it's time to put Garoppolo back in. Are you on that boat?
No.
I don't think the Raiders should put Garoppolo back in. I don't think you can risk him getting hurt and you being tied to that contract if you're trying to, move him off the team by that one deadline that we talked about.
I think you just let Aiden O'Connell play. Hopefully, I know this is weird, but hopefully he sucks and we lose out. Honestly, I want to earn the highest draft pick at this point. Now losing to the Vikings, that's official for me. I'm done.
It's simple. We killed the Batman. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't want to see O'Connell, but you still want to lose games, then I tell you, the Raiders have the perfect quarterback in the store. They've got Brian Hoyer right there. He's not going to cost you any money if he gets hurt. You use that guy. You don't put in Jimmy for him to eventually get that injury, and then like you're sort of got your hands tied with him no matter what.
Yeah. I think maybe one of the tweets, you might have put it up earlier, but I said something along the lines of these next 4 weeks, these last weeks of this season are not for building towards a playoff run. It is for figuring out who is worth keeping and who isn't. For me, Bo Hardigree is not getting it done for me. As of right now, Antonio Pierce is not getting it done for me. Champ Kelly, the interim general manager, I have big thoughts on him. You may have seen them if you showed the tweets. I think you keep him. I think my big thought for this team right now that I've had for a few weeks now is that the Raiders need to change it up. And what do I mean by change it up? The past 2 head coaches that were hired by Mark Davis were hired to be put in charge. They were paid the big bucks, right? They paid the big bucks. Go lead this team. I'm trusting you, Mark Davis says. John Gruden, Josh McDaniels, thanks. You know what I want is a guy who actually knows what he's doing and a general manager.
Are you frozen again?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. And I think Champ Kelly knows what he's doing. And also, my biggest thing is he has an absolute mastery of this roster. And he would be the type of guy that would decide, hey, I want to keep Patrick Graham. And maybe Mark Davis steps in and says, I want a new head coach, though. And Champ Kelly can say, okay, I'm going to go out and find us the new head coach. I'm going to go with a guy like Lou Anarumo. Oh, no, he's a defensive-minded coach. But maybe the Dolphins head or offensive coordinator Frank Smith. Or maybe if we're lucky, we can go after Ben Johnson from the Lions. Give me an offensive-minded head coach to pair with Patrick Graham and general manager Champ Kelly. Do not make the head coach the man in charge. The general manager needs to be in charge of personnel, not the head coach. That's been our problem. Make the general manager in charge of personnel. Have your head coach be in charge of the team, coaching the team. Let your play callers be in charge of calling plays. Your head coach, if he's offensive-minded, sure, he can call plays, but leave the coordinating to the coordinators, leave the head coaching to the head coaches, or the one head coach. Personnel, stop making that in charge of the coach. That is not working for this team. Champ Kelly,
I've got an interesting
general manager.
You can just say yes or no if you would be interested or intrigued by this name. How would you feel about Kellen Moore?
I guess I need to see more from the Chargers offense and how he goes with that, because it seems like he inherited Staley's offense. Obviously, Staley is a defensive guy, but it didn't seem like Kellen Moore got enough time to really make his changes to the offense. He shows some promise, but I just don't see it for the Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
I guess at the end of the day, I want somebody who's really well known for, or maybe not. I shouldn't say well known, but has done a good job with quarterbacks, because whoever this guy is going to bring in the next great quarterback for this team.
Jim
Harbaugh is obviously interesting. I have fear that if he were to be the guy, he would be in charge of personnel. And I don't want clashing heads with the front office. I want the front office to be in charge of that. But also, Mark Davis would get in a bidding war with Michigan, because he is currently ongoing contract talks with Michigan. The rumor is he wants north of $11 million per year. What was John Gruden getting per year?
Probably 10.
10. So now we're paying more for head coach. I don't know what we were paying Josh McDaniels, but he was overpaid as well. I'm not saying that Jim Harbaugh would be overpaid, but are we really going to do this again? And more important, maybe, but you also still, again, you have to get in a bidding war with his alma mater, with the team that he's very likely to lead to the college football championship. Does he really want to leave? Maybe if he wins the championship, he's like, it's settled. I'm ready to go to the NFL. I've done what I came out to do. Let's go. It's possible. But you're still getting into a bidding war with Michigan. I don't think Mark Davis wants to do that, honestly. I think you need to change it up. It would be interesting, yes, but I think you got to put the general manager in charge. Maybe Mark Davis needs to stop getting in the way of hiring coaches and let a general manager do it. The last time he did that was Reggie McKenzie getting Dennis Allen, and it didn't work out. But also bear in mind, Reggie McKenzie had to rebuild that roster from the fucking ground up, because Al Davis obliterated it from 2002 to 2010. Obliterated it. Cap hell, because Jamarcus Russell and all these other players were overpaid. Reggie McKenzie came in and fixed that. Thank you, Reggie. What does Reggie get? John Gruden. And a year later, you're fired. And then John Gruden's in charge. What do we get? Rebuild. Let's trade Mac, Cooper. And then scandal. Then we get Josh McDaniels. Let's rebuild. Derek Carr's gone. But we're going to bring in Davante Adams right before we kick out Derek Carr. And then, we're going to go with Patriots West, even though McDaniels kept saying, oh, no, I'm adaptable. Oh, this isn't going to be the Patriots. No, it was the Patriots. Your fucking plan was to get Tom Brady. You're an idiot. I'm done with head coaches being in charge of personnel. Champ Kelly. Again, he knows this roster. He knows its weaknesses. He knows what he needs to change. Bring in a great coach. Keep Patrick Graham. Continue.
That's an excellent mic drop for this topic. We're going to go ahead and move into the next topic, but we're going to give a little bit of a rapid fire Raiders versus Chargers preview. One notable thing is that Keenan Allen is going to be questionable for this game, and Justin Herbert is doubtful for this upcoming game, because it appears as though he broke a finger on his throwing hand, and the Raiders will play the Chargers in Vegas on a Thursday night, so it's going to be a short week. Mike, give us your thoughts on the game.
Is it official that he's doubtful? Or is that like kind of suspicion for Herbert?
Let me clarify that, but give us your thoughts.
I really don't know what to think, because this offense for the Raiders is struggling so bad. Again, coming off a bye week, scoring 0 points, just looking absolutely horrendous. I mean, Josh Jacobs couldn't get more than 34 yards on 13 carries. The defense held it down, and the defense could very well win this game if Justin Herbert doesn't play, especially if Keenan Allen also doesn't play. The run game has been struggling. Austin Eckler looks like a shell of himself. But at the same time, Josh Jacobs left the Vikings game with what was initially called a knee injury, but now they're calling it a groin injury. He didn't practice today. So I'm not really expecting Josh Jacobs to play.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
So the report on Justin Herbert, this is from Adam Schefter. So ESPN's Adam Schefter reports Justin Herbert finger is not expected to play in the Chargers Week 15 matchup against the Raiders. So, I mean, really, this game is going to come down to who's going to be worse on offense. You know, I think the Raiders defense should have a field day against Easton Stick. But that Raiders offense, like, you know, who knows what they're going to bring. They've been inconsistent, to say the least.
Yeah, actually, I just saw a tweet earlier that said that apparently Antonio Pierce said in the press conference today that the Raiders started, I don't know if he labeled it as game planning or what, but they started their preparations for the Charger game on Friday. Would you label that as looking ahead of the Vikings? Probably not. They had a bye week, so they had extra time, and then after this Vikings game, you have a Thursday night game, so you have a short week. I understand in theory, you know, what they were trying to do, but that Vikings game was not good on offense, man. Yeah, I mean, I just don't know what to think. I really wish Herbert didn't get hurt because I would just easily pick the Chargers and hope that the Chargers win. And I'd rather hope for the Raiders win, you know, and get another win on the Chargers, but this is desperate times for the Raiders. This is essentially a rebuild, but a soft rebuild. Really, you need to get your quarterback. You're hoping for a Houston Texans type offseason, right? Get your quarterback, get another defensive stud, and have a playoff run next season. If your head coach is good, right? New head coach for them too. Do I expect that? No, because it's the goddamn Raiders. And now we have a game against Easton Stick that we will probably win. Honestly. I mean, if Keenan Allen and Justin Herbert aren't playing, the only thing that gives me hope in a negative sort of sense that we will, you know, lose is if Josh Jacobs doesn't play. And I guess Colton Miller. I know Crosby's going to play. As long as he has a pulse, as he put it, he's playing. Yeah, I expect a bounce back from Aiden O'Connell. Sorry, let me look at one thing here.
You know what always kills me about like games like this? I feel like in the NFL, you don't accidentally win. You know, the Raiders always find themselves in this position where it's like, yeah, they should win. Look at the Bears game this year, where it's like, well, their quarterback's out, you know, they're not playing very well, and then Deontay Foreman just completely kills them, right?
Yeah.
Oh, man, this is tough. But I think I'm going to have to pick the Raiders. And I am reluctantly picking the Raiders because I don't know what game plan. You know, I really don't know how this game is going to go. All I do know is that the Chargers are absolutely devastated by injuries. And for all I know, Austin Eckler can have a big game and, you know, or possibly just have a good enough game for the Chargers to squeak by and win. You know, that could absolutely happen. The Chargers have enough firepower to beat this Raiders team with just Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler. But, like, the supporting cast at receivers just not there. Didn't Joey Bosa get hurt a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, I want to say he's out for at least a couple more weeks, if not the rest of the season.
Joey Bosa is not going to be playing. You know, the Raiders, even if Josh Jacobs goes down, Aiden O'Connell struggled against this Chargers team last time up. I'm thinking that O'Connell's got to be playing for his career right now, so he might be a little extra motivated there. This game to me is a toss-up. It's going to be a garbage bowl, in my opinion. No offense, Raider fans, no offense, Charger fans. But really, it's like the Raiders, absolutely zero doubt, should probably be in tank mode. But Antonio Pierce is not, because he is also trying to win his job, keep his job in the NFL. I think Brandon Staley and that Chargers offense has been like shut out the past 2 weeks. Give me the Raiders. I think they're playing for more.
Yeah, I think, and like you mentioned, the Chargers are insanely unhealthy, which is what we were saying week 4 when we faced them, and or at least I predicted they just beat them at the time. The Chargers ended up winning that game. I think that this could be the game that gets, or perhaps should get, Brandon Staley fired.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna also pick the Raiders. I think this is the last game that they win this season. After this Charger game, it's going to be Chiefs, Colts, Broncos.
Mm-hmm.
And the Colts are dead set in that wild card run, so they're going to need the wins, and so are the Chiefs. The Chiefs need to stay above the Broncos now. They're only one game above the Broncos. And then the Broncos are in that wild card race, but also the potential division title race. Actually, just really quick
Which is wild.
Absolutely wild. From where they started, kudos to them, no lie, and their head coach, whatever his name is. Yeah, but where the fuck are the Chiefs? Okay, let's look at the Chiefs' upcoming schedule. They just lost to the Bills. That shit was hilarious. Patrick Mahomes crying is always a good thing. They have the Patriots. They're going to win this week. Raiders next week. They should win. Bengals, and then they finish with the Chargers. The Chiefs are going to win out.
The Chiefs might win out. The Bengals game might give them a little bit of trouble, but I see the Chiefs probably winning out. But we'll see week to week. You never know what happens. Other than that, I really got to get out of here. We went a little bit past the time that I had today, but it's okay. It was a great show. Mike, any last thoughts before we get out of here?
Just this last thought, because I didn't really get to say it. Max Crosby, Malcolm Kuntz, Tyree Wilson, Adam Butler, Robert Spillane, Amik Robertson, Marcus Epps, Divine Diablo, Trevon Merrick, Jermaine Illuminor, all had great games against the Vikings. You add in Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams, and Colton Miller. I think you have your core of players that you need to keep moving forward. Maybe besides Adam Butler, but he seems like a guy that's good. As I've said in multiple streams, this is the time where we need to look for the guys worth keeping and the guys perhaps not so worth keeping. There are other guys that I didn't mention that you could add to this list, maybe Jacoby Myers and a few others, but Nate Hobbs,
Hunter Renfrow. No, I'm just kidding.
I think he's a free. He actually might not be a free agent. He might not be a free agent. He might have one more year on his contract, but we'll see. We'll see where the offseason takes us. I'm honestly, genuinely, really excited for this offseason. It's going to be very telling for the future of this organization. So,
And with that, that's the end of the show. Thank you, everybody who tuned in. Gotta go. Appreciate you guys. Mike, I appreciate you. And we'll see you guys next week.